I want to ask you, quería preguntarle, usted ha hablado de los grandes cambios que estamos viviendo, que estamos viendo. Quería preguntarle un poco por el tema de la publicidad, más que las marcas. Es decir, estamos viendo pues que las cosas, como decíamos, están cambiando. Hay mucha inseguridad, hay confusión de qué funciona, qué no funciona, si el consumidor realmente sigue aceptando o no la publicidad, si va a funcionar. ¿Cómo ve usted un poquito lo que viene, lo que puede venir o próximos pasos de la publicidad?
It's kind of rusty. It's a little bit rusty. Yeah. Well, basically, if you could just focus a little bit on the area of publicity, how do you see it, how's it going?
If it still will work or not work in the near future.
What's going to work, what's not going to work in the future. Basically, sort of focusing a bit on
Advertising.
Publicity and
Advertising,
media.
yes. Advertising, okay, media also.
And advertising. Okay, a couple of things. Well, media is an extreme case in many ways. Let's start a little bit first with media. What you can see in media happening is really, do you remember what we talked about, that the periphery take over and the center becomes smaller and smaller. What you can see in media is that the user, the viewer, the reader create the content of what you read. If you open a newspaper today, you can see that almost month by month, a higher percentage is actually made by the readers, because you send in pictures, you do blogs that are published, you send in, this is YouTube, which is an extreme version, but it's also happening to traditional media. I'm talking about local print press. Now, we have set information free to the extent that you saw we were talking about earlier here, which means that one of the implications is that the content is made by the reader, the user, you, basically, and me. Second thing, we will not pay for most of those medias. We are already in the process of losing our lust and willingness to pay for information. We are not willing to pay for something that is not very personalized and extremely specific for you. We are not willing to pay for anything that is general in any sense of the word. Absolutely not. Number three, when it comes to advertising, I'm not sure that it will work at all in the years to come. It's a major crisis for advertising, and what we see is that PR, the way we talked about it earlier today, is the playing field, really. PR, where you're actually trying to use media in general for distributing your ideas, rather than trying to pay per view. Actually, I think we have to pay people to read advertisements in the future. If you want someone to read it, you have to pay them, and pay them a lot. You read this, you get 20 euros. You were like, no. 30, no, still no. How about 50? Okay. You have to pay people to sit and read this shit. Because we are, yes, because we have been living with it for such a long time. Many of you don't want it in the middle of a film, for example, when you watch TV. And you're willing to pay a lot to get rid of it. To buy a machine or to do something. So think, we have to pay the reader, the viewer, to read our stuff, to see our stuff. That's probably the direction we are moving in.
¿Seguirá la publicidad pudiendo influenciar en la gente o no? Pregúntale si podrá la publicidad, seguirá influenciando en la gente o dejará de poder influenciar.
Yes, of course.
Advertising. Sí,
I think advertising will still play a role, but it will be hidden. You won't know when it is advertising. It will go underground in that sense. But you will also see something else, which we have already seen. Barack Obama is an example of something. Barack Obama is probably one of the greatest speakers in the last 100 years. Europe and the United States, Winston Churchill, all of them included. Those of you that have seen him have also seen that he masters rhetoric. This is something that we will see much more of, also in business, how we will use the fact that you build an emotional link to your audience with the way you use the words. I mean, rhetoric is not a new area. The Romans were using it 2,000 years ago, so there is no drama in that. But we haven't used it for quite a long time. And you can see the power of when we use it in our time. There are many reasons for why it works, but keep an eye on rhetorical skills because they will be extremely important. Again, in business, not only in politics.
You make me think of what happened during Nazism. This might surprise you. But you know, by force, Adolf Hitler did what was called Gleichschaltung. He took German society and he homogenized it by force.
Yeah.
And in our times, we have macro tendencias, these macro trends, that significantly lead us into a Gleichschaltung on a global level, where it's not so different now to be Finnish compared to a Spaniard, compared to, like you said, in Silicon Valley, the whole world goes to the Starbucks at the same time. So I'd be really interested in your ideas regarding the promise of globalization and the perils of Gleichschaltung, of this homogenization into a one-world identity, which has positives and negatives.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. I think the parallel is striking with this Gleichschaltung. Now, I think we are doing, and I will now try to make a brief answer to a very sophisticated question. We are doing two things at the same time. And let's use business, because many of us are from business here today as an example. We can do two things today at the same time, which we could not in the 30s. We can actually make a product or a service that is more or less unique for Toby here, locally. And it's still made by a multinational company. So you can combine the fact that you are global or international with the fact that you are local and very close to the client. This is the Mini Cooper of BMW. They are all different. Basically, all the Mini Coopers are unique. They are designed usually by the client, the buyer. And the buyer has said, I want it red, with a CD, and I want the diesel. And then you can, I think, if I remember right, because I'm working a little bit with the company, there are 640,000 different ways to combine the Mini Cooper. It's made for you. It's custom made. At the same time, BMW is a multinational or international empire. This is the European Union, where we try to strike a balance with local, being Spanish, and you are still in control of your destiny, but we also try to coordinate some things European-wide. We make two things at the same time, which makes the European Union much more interesting for the future than, for example, the US or China or any other part of the world. Because we do two things at the same time. We are local, and we coordinate things across our countries. Hopefully, this will navigate us through this dire strait of the Gleichschaltung, and we won't end up in the same situation as we did at that time. I'm still optimistic, that's what I'm saying. Yes, I'm sorry.
No, you can.
Please go ahead.
Well, no, I was saying this, so actually I have to do it. See,
The whole hypothesis that we're in front of a change of a sociological era. I think that we are moving from the postmodernism society into analyzing the trends. Some of them you mentioned, and others like the interest for environment, or for the environment, like the social networks. These days we're talking about. Also the interest for a new different spiritualism. I think that we're moving to what I call an emotional area. Something like this.
Yeah.
I see the crisis will be like the threshold. What do you think about? Is this really, because you also mentioned the interest from China for the capitalism or consumerism, so there might be conflicting forces. I'm interested in hearing your point of view of that potential change of era.
Okay. Two things. Number one, yes, I think there are some really fundamental sociological changes in our societies, the way I've been talking about them. But business has not yet understood many of those. Which means that many businesses during this crisis were confronted with huge problems. I mean, back to Ford, General Motors. When they ask people in the United States, have you seen that? That there are polls, they ask people, do you think that the state should support GM and Ford? Have you seen that? Have you seen what people answer?
No.
What is the answer?
No.
No. They say no. Because those people have for 10 or 15 years not been listening. Why should we now pay for that?
Mm-hmm.
That's what people say. They have not been listening to what kind of life we live, what kind of products we're asking for. Actually, one part of the crisis is this. Business has not been listening, and now we are paying a price for it. Absolutely. So that is number one. Number two, capitalism is like English. It comes with a dialect, and we speak different capitalism. The European version of capitalism is different from the American. The Chinese version of capitalism is different. The dialect is different. It's still capitalism.
Yes.
But it's a different version of capitalism, a little bit different in terms of nuances. And yes, there will be small conflicts between those dialects. Not tectonic conflicts, but there will be friction. Because the way we see capitalism is different. It comes with a dialect, like English. All of us speak some kind of English. Well, the British will say it's not English, but anyway, you know what I mean. Which makes it sometimes a little bit different for us to understand each other because we have dialects. You know, Chinese, but we sound Chinese. This speak English, but same thing. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
En primer lugar, congratulations for the speech, very nice. Tenía una pregunta. Ha estado usted hablando del mundo real, de todos los factores que pueden afectar, que están afectando al mundo real.
We were talking about everything that was affecting the real world.
Okay, but there, bueno, hay un mundo también ahora que está pareciendo virtual, también, que son las redes sociales. Facebook, profesionales o bien social, ¿no?
Facebook is
Yes.
Eso tiene importancia, sobre todo por una persona que ha dicho antes, por ejemplo, que Barack Obama. Estuvimos viendo ayer la importancia que ha tenido todo el tema de redes sociales en un hecho tan importante como es la elección de un presidente de Estados Unidos.
for example, Barack Obama, and the way that he moved the...
Entonces, ¿cómo encajaría ese nuevo factor que son redes sociales, que a lo mejor son 150 millones de personas, por ejemplo, en Facebook ahora? No es tanto como toda la población que está moviendo a nivel mundial, pero sí que es muy intenso. Me recuerda un poco a lo mejor a esa meritocracia de los Estados Unidos, y da igual de donde sea. ¿Cómo encaja a lo mejor ese factor, la influencia de ese tipo de redes, ese movimiento virtual? Porque ya tenemos una vida que es la real y encima ahora aparece una virtual también.
So
Eso se entremezcla mucho,
fit in this?
seguro que afecta.
How do you fit in with this other reality, that is such a big part of our world now, becoming so large? Gracias.
Thank you.
You know what? Of course, Facebook is here to stay, and that we all the things we do on the web. Many of those things are here to stay. Not all. I'm not saying that all of them will stay. Some of them are like fashion, they come and go. But of course the web will stay. The fact that you can communicate and build networks one way or the other will stay, absolutely. You know what? I think this is one of the things where life for us human beings are coming a little bit closer to who we are. Because we are not only one thing, most of us. Most of us contain conflicting wills. Most of us are at at least 2 or 3 different things at the same time. That's called our personality. What this world opens up is for us to be both. It's like we talked about with local and global. Here, you can be lonely and together at the same time, which is very interesting for us human beings, when we can do both. The English word oxymoron. You know, an oxymoron is a round square. Yes, a round square. You can say it, but it's very difficult to make one. This is a young old man. Kind of. This is a lonely person that is very social at the same time. And technology offers this opportunity. It's super attractive for us. We will do both. I don't see them as substitutes for each other. We will develop in both directions at the same time. Good for us and good for our children. I think that they can do both rather than only one thing.